Today, we're diving into a geopolitical crisis that has just exploded with shocking speed. It's choked off the world's most critical energy artery, and it's sending massive shockwaves through the entire global economy. I want you to imagine something. What if you woke up one morning to find out that the main highway for global oil had just been shut down? Completely. Indefinitely. Well, that's not a hypothetical anymore. That is the reality we're facing in March of 2026. And the stakes? They honestly could not be higher. To really get a sense of just how big this is, you gotta look at this number. Every single day, nearly 21 million barrels of oil, that's about a fifth of the whole world's consumption, flows through one single, narrow waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. Or at least it used to. Because in a matter of days, that incredible flow has been slashed to almost nothing. We're talking a staggering 91% drop. Think of it like a global economic heart attack. And we are just now feeling those first chest pains. So how on earth did we get here? Let's walk through the sequence of events that led to this unprecedented shutdown, because the sheer speed of this escalation, well, that's a story in itself. The thing that's just stunning here is the speed. You see a U.S.-Israeli strike on Iran on February 28th. And just 24 hours later, Tehran retaliates by closing the strait. From that one move, a full-blown global crisis explodes in less than 2 weeks, and it even leads to threats against a second choke point. It is an absolute textbook case of rapid, terrifying escalation. And this table, wow, it really lays out the real-time chaos in black and white. It's not just about the oil flow. Look at that line for war risk insurance. That's the extra cash you got to pay to insure a ship against getting attacked. It has skyrocketed from a teeny tiny fraction of a ship's value to as much as 2%. That right there, that's what we call a fear premium, and it's making it almost impossibly expensive to send a ship through there. Okay, so the main artery is clamped shut. What happens next? A desperate global scramble for a bypass. This is the story of the frantic worldwide effort to basically just keep the lights on. And look, this isn't me being dramatic. When the International Energy Agency, these guys are literally the world's energy watchdog. When they use language like this, you know we are in completely uncharted territory. They have never, ever seen a supply shock this big or this fast. So, you might be thinking, what about alternatives, right? Well, there are some bypass pipelines, but their capacity is just a fraction of what's needed, less than 8 million barrels a day, compared to the 21 million that we've lost. And what's worse, major producers like Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar, they have zero pipeline access. For all intents and purposes, they are completely cut off from the world. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. You see, those bypass pipelines end at ports on the Red Sea. And from there, tankers have to pass through a second choke point, the Bab el-Mandeb, to get to the rest of the world. Now that route is also being threatened by Houthi forces. So even the world's main backup plan is now in serious jeopardy. Okay, let's bring this down from the 30,000-foot view and see how a crisis like this actually hits home for a country. Let's take a look at a case study. India, a massive energy importer that now finds itself incredibly exposed. And for a country like India, the vulnerability is just stark. The country imports almost 88% of its crude oil. A huge chunk of that usually comes right through the Strait of Hormuz. So its energy security was basically threatened overnight, forcing a really immediate and drastic pivot. So what does that pivot actually look like? Well, it looks like an all-out scramble on every possible front. Indian refiners are trying to buy up Russian oil that's already floating on the ocean. They're calling up their partners in West Africa. They're even starting talks with suppliers all the way over in the Americas. They are turning over every single stone, no matter how far away it is. And this right here, this shows you the brutal new math of global shipping. A journey that used to take about a week now takes over a month. And this isn't just a logistical headache. It means way, way higher freight costs. And that cost, yeah, that gets passed on to you and me at the pump. But listen, this crisis goes so much deeper than just oil. This is where it gets personal for pretty much everyone, affecting the food we eat and the materials we build with. These are the hidden casualties of the crisis. You see, this isn't just about fuel for our cars. It's about fertilizer for our farms. With its usual Gulf suppliers cut off, India has made what's being called an unusual request to China for urea, and it's pivoted hard to Russia for other key nutrients.
We're talking about a desperate scramble to secure the country's next harvest and, by extension, its food supply.
And the dominoes just keep falling. The crisis disrupts industrial fuel, so the cement industry has to buy expensive American coal. It completely upends logistics, forcing a big shift away from efficient, just-in-time delivery to much costlier, just-in-case stockpiling. And in the end, all these new costs just ripple through the economy and land right on the price of our staple foods. And this is such a fascinating detail, a real nuance in this whole crisis. Even though we had massive harvests that have kept corn and soybean prices pretty stable, wheat prices are suddenly surging. The market is just spooked by how fragile the supply chain is, and any tiny hint of bad weather in other big growing regions sends prices soaring even higher. So, the billion-dollar question is, where do we go from here? The entire global economy is just watching, waiting, and frankly worrying about the next move. Well, everything really hinges on a few key things that we're all watching like hawks. We're looking at the tanker data to see if this blockade holds. We're monitoring the Red Sea for any signs of things getting worse. And we're listening for any signals from Iran's new leadership or for a potential U.S. military response. Each one of these is going to determine if this crisis calms down or spirals even further out of control. And all of this really leaves us with one huge, fundamental question. This crisis has exposed a profound vulnerability in our interconnected world. We have built an entire global economy that relies on a handful of very narrow waterways. So as we watch all this play out, we have to ask ourselves, is this incredible system we've built just too fragile to begin with?
Thanks for watching.